Hello everyone, my name is Petteri Kivima. I'm the CTO of NIS, and the topic of this talk is X-Road metrics. So first, very short introduction. What is X-Road metrics? It is an X-Road extension that enables collecting operational insights and statistics from an X-Road ecosystem. But before jumping to the details, what metrics really is and what it really does, let's talk a little bit about the X-Road ecosystem and the different actors and roles that we have there. So as you all know, X-Road is a decentralized solution. In the ecosystem, we have the X-Road operator that owns the ecosystem, defines the rules, policies, and decides who is allowed to join the ecosystem. And of course, also operates the X-Road central components. Then we have multiple member organizations, and member organizations, they are data providers, data consumers, organizations who exchange data with each other. They can be big or small, they can be private companies, public agencies. It's up to the X-Road operator to decide. Then the member organizations, they have one or more security servers that they use as a technical access point to the ecosystem and also as the technical component to exchange data with other organizations. And of course, they have information systems, client information systems, services that are connected to the security server, and they are kind of the core of the ecosystem in a sense that X-Road enables secure data exchange between those systems. And then we also have member organizations that may not exchange data by themselves, but they provide security servers to other organizations. For example, I'd call them security server hosting providers. The X-Road operator, if they use just the X-Road core, all the time they know who are the members of the ecosystem, how many security servers do they have, how many subsystems do they have. But the operator actually don't know anything about the services that have been connected to the ecosystem by the members. And the operator doesn't know anything either about the amount of messages, amount of data, data exchange relationships between members. So just by using the X-Road core, you get the basic setup, secure data exchange, the ecosystem. But if you want to have this kind of insights, they are not available. The members, of course, they have access to their own security servers. They know what services they have published, hopefully, at least. But still, they may have challenges as well. If they have multiple security servers, they have a highly available setup, they have published the same service on multiple security servers, then they want to have statistics about the use of that service. Collecting the data from multiple security servers, yes, of course, it's possible. You can build your own tools for that, but it's not necessarily easy. And of course, the same goes with the X-Road hosting providers as well. They provide security servers for a large number of organizations potentially, and they need to know what is happening on those security servers. So, as you can imagine at this point, this is the place where the X-Road metrics come in. So, X-Road metrics is an X-Road extension maintained by NIS that can provide this kind of additional insights to you. So, X-Road metrics is a tool for the X-Road operator, X-Road members, X-Road hosting providers, and also to the X-Road community. The X-Road operator can use X-Road metrics to collect different kind of operational data from the ecosystem. For example, number of exchanged messages, the amount of exchanged data, response times, throughput, and what kind of relationships there are between different service consumers and service providers. And this kind of data, it's really important to the X-Road operator, and also actually it's also really important to the one level above the X-Road operator, the policymaker. Especially in national implementations, there is usually some kind of a national level policy behind the use of X-Road. And when X-Road is implemented, then it's important to measure the success of the implementation and the impact of the implementation. And of course, X-Road metrics and the data it provides, it alone doesn't provide all the required details for this kind of evaluation, but at least it provides a very good basic set of real data, facts and figures. So instead of doing abstract evaluations, it is possible to base the impact assessment on real data. And also for X-Road members, they can install metrics and collect data from their own security servers. Especially big organizations, they may have multiple security servers, could be even tens of security servers, and in a highly available setup, the same service is probably available through multiple security servers. And then the organizations want to collect statistics about the use, and X-Road metrics provides a perfect tool for that. And didn't mention it earlier, but it also provides a built-in way to produce reports, PDF, and email-based. And the same goes with the X-Road security server hosting providers as well. They provide services to different organizations, potentially shared security servers, and they need to be able to report about the usage of the security servers and services to their clients. So X-Road metrics can be used that as well. And then one interesting approach is also so-called additional or custom use cases. So you can use X-Road metrics to collect all this data, and the metrics provide some built-in features how you can use that data. But of course, you can use that data for any other purpose as well. So you can build new custom tools based on that data. And one interesting example is API monetization. If you have an API service, you publish it to X-Road, and you want to monetize it. You want your users to pay for that service based on their real use. So X-Road metrics can provide that data regarding the use of the services, and then on top of that, it's possible to build additional logic that does the actual billing and invoicing part. And once you build that kind of logic on top of metrics, then actually you have the monetization layer ready for all of your APIs. Because if you publish all your APIs through X-Road, you use metrics, then you just have to implement the logic once, and then you have the new feature ready for you. And yeah, well, it would be really nice to see this kind of implementations as open source. But then last but not least, metrics provides also something to the community, and it's transparency. It's possible to publish the data collected by metrics, of course anonymized, publicly as open data. and the community can access the data and use it for different purposes. For example, I think there could be potentially many interesting research ideas regarding the data and how it could be utilized. So there is lots of potential there in the data that is collected by metrics. But then few words about the history. Originally, X-Road Metrics was developed by the Estonian Information System Authority. The first version was released 2016, I believe, and at the time it was known as operational monitoring. So if you are familiar with operational monitoring, well, X-Road Metrics is basically the same thing. But since X-Road Metrics is something that every X-Road operator and why not X-Road member should have, it was decided that it will be handed over from RIA to NIS because developing and maintaining such a component is a joint interest of all NIS members. And therefore, the component was handed over from RIA to NIS in 2020. And before releasing the first version of X-Road Metrics, we did some changes to it. So when one organization or one entity or in this case operational environment develops an open source solution, usually it's inevitable that it contains some specific details related to that entity, organization, or environment. And that was the case with X-Road Metrics too. As a part of the work that we did before releasing the first version was to kind of generalize the implementation and remove any country-specific details that were specific to Estonia only. Or of course, we didn't remove any features, but we just modified them in a way that they were not Estonia specific anymore, but that they can actually be used any party who is interested in metrics. Another thing that we did before the release was a security assessment. It was conducted in May. The results were good, no major findings there. So X-Road Metrics is also secure, just like the X-Road Core is. And after the security assessment, then we released the first X-Road Metrics release in June this year. And it is available for Ubuntu 20 operating system. And of course, this is the first step with the X-Road Metrics related development. The work doesn't end here. We continue to work with metrics and develop it further. There are pilots about to begin in Estonia, not in Estonia, Estonia is using it already, but in Iceland and in Finland. And based on the results of the pilots, we probably have new items to put to our backlog. And of course, X-Road Metrics, it's available open source under the MIT license. Anyone is able to use it for free of charge. So if you are interested in it, please try it out. If you have ideas how to develop it, please let us know. And of course, if you're willing to contribute, please do so. And then few words from more technical perspective. The metrics, it consists of multiple modules. Some of them are internal and some of them public. And to be able to use X-Road Metrics, you of course need to have the X-Road ecosystem, and access to the central server and at least to one security server. And this is a more technical diagram of how the metrics works. On the left-hand side, we have the X-Road ecosystem where the data is generated, and then it is pulled by the metrics and stored inside the metrics components. So there is the collector module that is responsible for fetching it. Then the data is cleaned. There are reporting capabilities, and on the right hand side we have the open data modules that I mentioned before. If you are interested in the technology, more information is available on GitHub. And that's it about X-Road metrics. Thank you for listening.
Petteri, welcome back, and thanks again for the second presentation of the day and for giving us basically this hour-long overview, not only into X-Road 7 but also X-Road metrics, so like the latest developments that are happening about the technology and the platform. And already some of the questions that we got from the audience, one for them, for example, is also asking if is there any place where people can already check, for example, a demo of the project?
We have our own X-Road playground test environment. We are planning to set up an instance of X-Road metrics there. It should be up and running and available during this year. But in the meanwhile, like I mentioned, metrics was originally developed in Estonia. It has been used there since 2016, and Estonia is actually publishing their metrics data as open data. So currently, the Estonian open data module is the place to check. And in addition to the open data that's available there, there is also very interesting visualization of the relationships of different services and organizations in the Estonian X-Road environment. So until our own test environment is up and running, I'd recommend you to check the Estonian open data and visualization modules.
But is that also one of the examples, for example, of the custom solution-based, a custom solution that is based on this on the metrics data? Since you said basically that has been, I mean, there are some pilots around the world, but also that has been like operative, although under another name, let's say in Estonia. But then, if we were to go like away from Estonia, where can we find some custom solutions?
Well, if you mean the custom implementations based on the data, like the API monetization that I mentioned just as one example, actually, we are not aware of any such implementations yet, but in case someone in the audience is already using metrics and you have such implementations, we'd love to hear about them. So please contact us and share your work with us. We are very, very happy to hear about it. And I also have to add one thing, the modules that I mentioned, the open data and the visualizations, they are not any kind of custom implementations or extensions. They are actually part of the official X-Road metrics release. So if you go and install metrics to yourself, then you will have those too, just out of the box. No customization needed, no additional development needed. Of course, you need to set up the system, configure it, but you don't need to implement or code any new additional system.
Petteri, we also have here two questions that regard the topic of Dockerization. So, for example, is there any are there any plans or timeline for that? So what is the roadmap essentially? Two questions different, asking essentially the same thing. So, and also for the supporting, let's say, this Docker.
Yeah, that's a good question. I was actually expecting to hear it. That's something that our developers are also asking. But yeah, it's definitely there in the roadmap. but we don't have any schedule for that yet. We definitely recognize the benefits of using Docker and how easy it is to set up the system using Docker containers. At the same time, we only had a limited amount of resources available to develop metrics this year, and we had to prioritize features that are important to these member countries, Estonia, Finland, and Iceland. And first, providing support for Ubuntu. That was the highest priority. But I think that we will come back to the Docker topic in the future. So we are aware of it, and we agree that it is a useful feature. The question is just when it will be implemented.
And talking about features for in the development roadmap of X-Road, which is also which was the main topic, let's say, of your first talk, but at the same time something that we can come back on, let's say, to wrap up also at the same time with one last question about the features. This session, it's one question that we got was, what are the X rooms or the message rooms? Like, how are they related to X-Road?
Well, that's also a good question. How much time do I have? Well, I try to be short.
Not much.
The X Rooms concept, it was originally introduced by the Estonian government CTO, Kristo Vaher, and it was introduced in the context of KRAT AI, that is the artificial intelligence initiative of the Estonian government. And then we started talking about it, and there was the idea that X-Road would implement the features that KRAT AI would require from message rooms, from X rooms. And then in the context of X-Road, that feature, it has been called message rooms. And basically, from very technical perspective, how I would describe it as a publish, subscribe, implementation in the context of X-Road. But currently, we are discussing the topic with these members, and nothing has been decided yet, but we are discussing different implementation alternatives, potential implementation schedule, and so on. But officially, we don't have yet message rooms in our roadmap, but probably some kind of a decision will be made soonish. But in the context of X-Road, the feature is called message rooms.
Petteri, one last thing from the studio where you are in Helsinki. What do you think the audience, let's say, should or could expect, let's say, from the rest of this X-Road community event? Considering it, after all, that you're the CTO of NIS and the Nordic Institute for Interoperability Solutions, who is in a way the godfather, let's say, of the event. I take the responsibility for being an Italian and using that word.
Yeah, thanks. Well, that's the first time when someone has called me the godfather of the event, but I'll take it. I think it will be a very interesting event. There are many interesting speeches, interesting topics today. The topics, they are, different from each other in a sense that we are not concentrating on one thing only, but we have different point of views, higher level views regarding the implementation, then about security, what kind of new additional tools are coming, and then of course a very interesting point of view regarding X-Road and public cloud. So I think it's a very good setup, and I really hope that you enjoy the event.
Perfect, Petteri. Thanks a lot for joining us today.